Welcome to the Northern Powerhouse interview series, where we're unashamedly spreading good news by interviewing Northern businesses and their successes during the pandemic. Subscribe to be notified of new interviews or click the link in the description to take part if you'd like to be interviewed yourself in a future episode. Great. Well, this morning on Northern Powerhouses Business Success Stories, we have Ian Whitfield of Alpha Cards. So Ian, if you'd be kind enough to introduce yourself to the audience in terms of who you are, what you do, and how your business serves the community.
Okay, cool. We basically produce Z-fold cards like this,
Yeah. Brilliant.
infinity cards like this. It's print, quite tricky print, but essentially what we do is help our clients to create engagement with their content, whatever that happens to be. And that can be marketing, advertising, traditional type stuff, information, and you'd be surprised. One of our latest things is we work with Amazon in the US, and they use our cards to communicate internally with their internal staff for HR.
Wow.
Out the blue, they found us somehow, probably through PPC or SEO channels over there. Beauty about it is, well, what it is a means of them communicating internally in a portal, engaging, retainable way, but then leads on to so many other things. And of course, our job, not only to produce the right product for them on time, et cetera, is to then say, okay, as you'd expect, Amazon, they have goodness knows how many sites throughout the US and Europe and elsewhere. Yeah. So let's actually see if we can talk to the other sites, because sometimes we're dealing with things that are company-wide. So we produced for major international brands like Shell. So Shell have run campaigns for V-Power, the fuel, and we've produced millions of cards for them that they put at service stations, and that comes generally through a print management company, and we don't deal necessarily direct with the end user.
Yes. But
we are supplying all the stations, and you've seen them. Well, you won't have seen them, but we've seen them in the service stations, in display boxes, et cetera, et cetera. Our job there is to make sure we're competitive and we can deliver and service them what they need. In the case of Amazon, this isn't a central action that they're doing. This has happened on the first site was a site in California. We've now done 2 or 3 in California, one just in Arizona, and then but we're having to actually sow the seeds in that one. So, but really, it's just about them getting them to be able to engage with the content in the right way. So yeah, it's different. It's print, but we don't think of ourselves as a printer. We think of ourselves as producing a product, and it's all about the product and its applications. And it's, as I was saying to you earlier, I can't show you who it is because we've got a non-disclosure agreement with them. But we produce these cards. It's for an app, and they're in the exact size of an iPhone X, and they wanted that to do that. And that's come again through print management. But we do a good job. We know the cards work, and we wouldn't have done nearly 400 million if they didn't work. But we've got to get it out there and do it. So yeah, it's a strange business. It's people say it and think, oh, it's print, and of course it is print. But it's our why, if you want to refer to it that way, is creating engagement. That's what we call it. So anyway, I hope that explains it.
No, it very much does. And we were talking about, obviously people want to get your hands on it because 40% of the world's population are kinesthetic. They love to touch and feel. So
yeah, absolutely. And it is a haptic memory and all that. I think the challenge for us is well, there's lots of challenges, particularly at the moment. But I think the challenge in general is there is people say, hey, everything's going online. It's all digital, and to some degree that's true. But actually, the problem with digital content is it's gone. If you need something to maintain that engagement, maintain the information, there's no substitute for it. And obviously, because we kind of slightly sit in the middle, even though the product can be massive when it's open, it can be the size of roughly a bit of a B1 sheet of paper when we've done those, or it can be tiny. It doesn't really matter. The point is you can contain the information in whichever form you want to, and if then you need to push people online, you use the product to do it, either just because, and this Amazon one, for example, has got extracts from their website on it. So it's for their HR people or their managers to say, oh, you key in this, you do that, and that's what you do. But it could be a QR code. It could be anything like that. Or we've done NFC tags for Argos. We've done RFID for Amsterdam Bus, etc., etc., etc. So but the point is, we kind of sit in the middle, and we call it cross media. That actually would probably mean nothing to people, but that's quite a good description for me, because it allows the transition between digital and print, but it maintains the ability to engage with the content.
Yeah.
So it hasn't gone away. Print hasn't gone away. We just have to adapt.
We're finding personally, we guys work with people on marketing in general, and obviously, as you rightly say, a lot of things gone digital. But what that means for us is that physical marketing is more rare, therefore it stands out more.
Yeah.
So obviously, you can't not be online, but getting something to the post, something dropped off, something that you can touch and feel,
absolutely
stands out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go back 10, 15 years, everything was sent through your letterbox. So that whole column of marketing, the message was lost in that. But now it's actually nice to get something in the post.
It is, and I think that direct mail actually is having a little bit of a resurgence, isn't it? Because actually, for exactly the reasons you've just said, because it's almost anybody can be online if you've got the right bit of work, you can put something online. But unless you know what you're doing, unless you're super clever, then it just gets lost in it. And I don't think it's one or the other. I think both have a fantastic role to play. But we're seeing that Infinity card that I was showing you, that is University of Gloucestershire. So they're sending that out to people who've had an offer of a place at University of Gloucestershire as a mailer. So we mail it as well. So we produce the envelopes, we do the ink. So it's a whole process. But these are new clients coming on board using these because they want the engagement that you get from the product. And they want people to sort of go back to the touch feel thing, and they bond with them in that way. But it's different, and you've got to find ways of adapting. I mean, I was talking to Charlie that about something else that we're doing. So that's a doorstep magazine that most people will have seen, which is an A5 generic advert for all your local tradesmen and everything. Yep. And one of the things that we've done during the increased time we've had during the pandemic is thought, well, hang on a minute, we've got clients who do all sorts of things, all sorts of different areas. Is there a means of using these type of cards, which are much more compact, and doing that? So that's actually one of the things we're doing now. So we're going to do these as a local services guide, because we've done them for people. That's one of our really good client we have in the Lake District, and they use it for tourism over there. So that's a load of adverts. Well, actually, totally different products do the same thing, and therefore that actually what we'll do is we'll incorporate QR codes with those adverts, so the advertisers don't have to have their own leaflets and their own mail drops. They can use that, but link people to the dynamic content on our website. So it's just trying to do things differently, but you can't stop the inevitable. The reality is growth of digital through all the forms that we're aware of is there, and it's not going to stop. Things like augmented reality, fantastic. Because for us, again, I can remember 12 years ago, we did a really big job for Sony in Spain, where they launched a 42-inch Bravia TV.
Yes.
And we produced 750,000 cards for them, and they were A5 finish size. They were big, and they opened up to be just a bit bigger than the Bravia TV, and it was so people could hold it up on the wall, and it had the outline of the TV on it, and go, "Ooh, it would look good there or there." It was like one massive piece of blotting paper. You've never used so much black ink in your life. It was unreal. But there was 750,000 of these things. It was a six-figure job. It was a big job. Anyway, now you wouldn't do that, would you? What you'd have is you'd have something relatively small with augmented reality. So you could hold your iPad or whatever it happened to be, your tablet, up against it, and then you could move it around and see it. Yeah. But you still need a trigger point. So again, that brings all sorts of opportunities for us, not just for TV, but for the motor trade and all sorts.
Fantastic.
It's our job is to try and we're not clever enough to come up with all these whizzy ideas in terms of the technical stuff of AR and stuff like that. But what we do know is the versatility of our product and the ability for it to work in those areas. And coming back to the Amazon thing, would we have thought to go to all these Amazon sites and say, what your HR people should do is issue these to all your managers so they could do it? Well, they would have told us to mind our own business for a start off. But actually, you've got to take those ideas, reformulate them, and think about them and how they apply. So yes, coming back to your original point, it's a very long-winded answer to your point, but we produce printed products, obviously, but it's totally different to that.
Brilliant. It's great, just to see these different products and stuff.
Yeah.
As I said, I'm familiar just purely from ski and trail maps.
Yeah, peace maps, as we discussed, absolutely. Trail maps, massive. Our American business, we do a lot of trail maps. Because again, it's the great outdoors, and so it's an obvious thing to use. And we all know your phone can run out of battery, can have no signal, can drop it, etc., etc., etc. And particularly if you've got content that's important to what you're doing, you need that backup. And the two things can work in tandem, to be fair. So we've that. Again, I probably shouldn't show you the details. I can't. That's a very big American client who use them survival guides. And they're printed on water. They're printed on water impermeable paper, which is unbelievably expensive, but it's for outdoors. And exactly the same reason, you can go outdoors if you're stuck in the middle of nowhere and something goes wrong. You want to be able to refer to something. We don't have quite the things they have to worry about in the outdoors here, but it's the same principle. So yeah, it's fascinating. That's why I love the business, because there's no two jobs the same. They're all completely different, whether it be a mailer for a university that wants to say well done to the students, through to Amazon's manager using it, through to a kitchen company that wants to produce something to support their app, etc., etc. It's really interesting.
Very exciting. It's just fascinating. Well, I guess you talk about challenges a little bit. How has the last 8-9 months affected you?
Yeah, well, it has affected us, because a lot of our clients are in areas that have been affected. Yes. So the areas that haven't. So a lot of stuff we do for government, military, defence stuff, NHS, mental health. Sadly, is as we know, was and is continued to be an issue and is growing. So one of our biggest clients is Mental Health First Aid England, who are like the St John's ambulance of mental health. So we're doing a lot with them. That paused a bit because a lot of that's training. So obviously they weren't able to go do training, but that's resuming again now. So those sort of things are there. Little bits of sectors, like I say, in the DIY sort of the home area, where people seem to be still spending money on that. That's still there. But anything to do with exhibitions, conferences, travel, piece maps are coming through now, because obviously the ski season is kind of just starting and will continue into Q1 of next year. So there's still, but volumes are down a bit. But we do a little bit through our UK business, a lot more through our German business of piece maps, a little bit through our Swiss distributor, and through also our French business as well. We do bits there. So they're there, and they're starting to come back. Education, suffered where it was freshers related, where it was for marketing related stuff. They're still doing it, but in a different way. And again, they're not quite sure what student's going to be there. So that's it. Charities, we do a lot with charity, and the ones we're still doing, the ones where they're mailing them out, or people are able to pick them up in a store or something. But where it related to a country show or a fair or something, where people like Health Heroes would have their stands up, stop. So we've seen a fairly significant impact on it. Touch wood, we've adapted, we've managed. We've not just used the time, through working out better ways of getting to clients and having time to do things like the local services guide I was referring to. We've just cut our costs where we can, and made sure that we'll be in shape. And actually, I think whilst it will have made a financial hole, it's not by any means an insurmountable financial hole. And what we'll find, I hope and believe, is that we'll look back in 2, 3, 4, 5 years time, and from a business perspective, clearly we're ignoring the human aspects of this at the minute, but in terms of the business perspective, we'll think actually that really did give us time to think, put some quality time of thinking into how do we adapt, how do we do things differently. We are fortunate, if that's the right word, in that we're very well diversified geographically. So we've got a business here, France, Germany, US, sales office in Spain, etc. We're looking to develop something in Australia as well at the minute. So geographically nicely diversified, but given that every country's got the same problems, that doesn't necessarily help us awfully. Really well diversified sector, so that at least it means that we, God forbid you were only, if your business was to do with events, you might struggle, but that's allowed us to maintain a level of business that's sustainable. So yeah, but it's impacted us, and we've tried to use the time I think as many people have to say, okay, what have we thought was always the thing we should be doing, but we haven't really had time to do it, and get on with it, which is what we've done. So we have updated and redeveloped the website, as we discussed earlier, and we're on with other things. So yeah, interesting times though.
Brilliant. Yeah, absolutely. I saw a piece.
And I haven't had a shave throughout the whole of it.
You mean
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, this wasn't near a year ago.
yeah. I'm not really nearly 60. I'm only 10.
Absolutely. I've seen a piece a little while ago that was saying Sir Isaac Newton was sent home during the Great Plague, and at that point is when he did most of his great work, locked down at home because of the plague, and all of a sudden it just changes the mindset.
Yeah.
Great.
I didn't know that. That's interesting.
No, I didn't. But and it is like, how do we use the opportunity? And we were saying before we started that, understandably, we can actually just, in a mindset wise, close down, shut down, and go, oh heck, let's hunker down till this is over, hopefully, or whatever. Or we could go, this is an opportunity that we haven't had to think, plan, strategize, what if, 100%. And out of it, as you say, I honestly believe that the businesses that focus on how can I rather than why can't I will benefit with a step change over the next couple of years.
No, definitely. I mean, I think in life it's the same, isn't it? You can have two choices. You can either go away, lick your wounds, or feel sorry for yourself, or you can say chin up, chest out. We've got to get on with it now. Now, it doesn't mean that everything you try works, but if you don't try anything, you'll get nothing, won't you? So
absolutely, and it's understandable that people feel a certain way, but we've seen, with the businesses we work with, some in industries that you'd expect, really would be challenged, who have just chosen to find different ways to service clients. We work with we have work with a cheese and wine retailer in New York, with the cafe as well, who the cafe had to shut. Yeah, he's taken cheese and wine tastings online.
I saw that. That's fantastic. I saw that. Yeah,
that's Harry. It's absolutely phenomenal. And he just decided to do it. And I think he went from the first session, he had 40 couples because it's basically a box. Yeah. He had 40. The most recent one that I spoke to about, he had 350 couples.
Yeah, no, I saw that. A fabulous idea. And why not?
And why not?
If you could package that up, send it out, and we could all do what we're doing now, and do this. That's a tremendous idea. Well done.
The fascinating thing is that for him, therefore, lockdown is a pretty good thing, because obviously we have to go back to it. What's also happened is that he's seen that there is a marketplace irrespective of lockdown. Two or three different markets. One being young couples with young children. Yeah. Difficult to go out on a Saturday night. Yeah. Why don't we just do this and maybe connect with a couple of friends to do the same? So rather than get together. Yeah.
It's kind of you can have a virtual dinner party in that sense.
And that is likely to continue after lockdown, because it is. Not
I think that's really. I'd read about that and I thought, good on you, kid. I mean, that's but it's also quite obvious, if you know what I mean, isn't it? It's not. Why would you not do that? But you don't, do you? It's not.
All the best ideas of that. Sure.
Yeah. No. I thought it was a great idea, and there'll be others similar, I guess, won't there? There's similar stories, but that I thought was fantastic.
We've seen so many, and that's, for me, it's about the mindset. How can I not? How can't I? And why?
Yeah, exactly.
I totally get that. So obviously, you talked about some of the challenges and some of the things you've come. What wins have you seen? What wins would you say that have come out of this?
I mean, I think from a point of view of certain sectors, obviously, it's meant we've because we've been growing quite nicely over the years. We've been busy servicing that growth and using the time we can to help with our own marketing, whether it be physical, sending products to people, or doing our own digital marketing. And it's given us time to probably look at that more closely. And we are actively trying to internalize some of that digital marketing, because nobody knows our products or its applications better than ourselves. And we've used different digital marketing agencies over the years, and as a general rule, it's like anything else, it's like a relationship. Probably it starts fantastic and then it just becomes fairly mundane. And don't quote me on that. And yeah, whoops. But in reality, you've got to keep working at it, haven't you? And you know, I don't think we'll ever internalize everything because we will never have the skill set to do it. But if you think about a business, in our case, in many cases, we're like a Trojan horse. You know, we'll work with clients who, if we don't think outside the box or encourage them to do so, we'll just, you know, we get 80 to 90% repeat client rate. So it's fantastic because the product works, we service it well, the quality is great, all good. But there is an opportunity, no question, coming back to the Trojan horse analogy, to, in some cases, not in every case by a long chalk, but once you've got that relationship, start talking about what else to do. And some of those things actually might be digital marketing. It might be other things that work close alongside what we do. So if we can offer that as well, it's more revenue for us and everything else. That's fine, but it makes us more intrinsic to that business. So it's, you know, we can sit back and say, well, we get 80 to 90% repeat client rate, happy days. Yeah, but you know, on that basis, if you don't do anything, you're always losing business because it isn't 100% for a start off. Yeah, so you know, but also there's some great opportunities. So we've used it to kind of, you know, think more deeply about things and develop things. And also we've had to, as I said to you earlier on, we've had to think about things like LinkedIn. So, you know, our challenge is the product works. The product's great. People love the product, and you know, it gets called paper magic, gets called all sorts of things. But you know, like I said, we've done going on 400 million of them over the last 15 years. There'll be over 2 billion that are being produced worldwide, but there's still so many people that haven't seen it. So we've got to find ways of reaching out to those people who are up against, you know, everything's online, it's all digital, well, it isn't, and doing that. So we've used things like LinkedIn to do it. So that's worked well. And also because we don't have to be particularly clever, fortunately, but a lot of our content, sometimes we'll sow the seeds, like with Amazon, we'll go to the sites and do that. But a lot of our content kind of originates with other people, or we sow the seeds and they develop and germinate it. So going back to the year 2008, some 2010, I remember doing a job when we were the Z-Card European manufacturing partner for Loughborough University. And it was an A-level guide, revision guide, and it was the same format as my business card. So sort of like A4, credit card size cover, A4-ish is in it, not like that, but it was all some tips for A-level revision maths. Clearly, not all of them, because if you get everything about A-level maths on there, you're doing well. But the point was, it was Loughborough reaching out to the colleges where the students who are doing A-level potentially would be, if assuming they achieve the right grades, would be coming to them or want to come to them. So it was them giving something which works and it helps, and also creating that sort of like idea of a call to action. Maybe you should apply to Loughborough University. Anyway, that's by the by. So we did those years ago. One of the local colleges came in to see us again 3, 4, 5 years ago because they wanted to produce some Z-Fold cards for something specifically. And I was chatting to one of their guys and I said, have you ever thought about something like this sort of idea so you can reach into your audience? In their case, it was a further education college, so it was GCSE stuff. And I didn't realize then that if you don't achieve a grade C in maths or English at GCSE, you can go to a further education college, but you can't progress to do the course you want without having done it. So it's obviously they then push those kids along. So we ended up doing some revision guides with them. But we sowed the seeds of the idea. They then took it away, came with what they wanted. Yeah. So again, coming back to one of the things that we've had time to do is, that's an English one, so that's GCSE. So we've actually work with a local school to create the content. So that's an English only one. So it's got spaces for writing on, it's got some tips on it. That's a maths one, the same, and it's not rocket science, it's your basic stuff. That's an English and maths one. So there's a bit more content on it. So actually we're now offering those for people to buy. Our market for that isn't your individual student who's going to spend $195, whatever it is, to buy one. It might be, but that's not the solution. Is for Benton Park School, which is our local school, to say, okay, that really like content, we don't want to change it. All we'll do is we'll put our own covers on it. So there's generic content. So guides and applications like that. We're doing something for concussion guidance and injury management for rugby as well. Again, working with a specialist guy, because obviously we're not. But again, we produced for the Scottish Rugby Union years ago, a similar thing. And it was all about, you'll understand this, if you don't measure it, you can't manage it. It was all about logging incidences of injury and particularly concussion on a website, so they could monitor the incidences. And this is from kids rugby all the way through. So people were encouraged to use the card we produced for them. Again, it was on water resistant papers because it was outdoor. They issued them through all the schools and rugby clubs. So if somebody had an injury and particularly concussion, record it, which allowed them to say, it's now X, this is what we've done, and it's now Y. And it's that, like I said, the measure it and manage it thing. So even then, and this is going back goodness knows how many years, I remember thinking, what a fantastic idea. How many rugby clubs are there? 2,000 rugby union clubs is the answer, near enough. And there's rugby league on top of that. But of course, you've got cricket, football, concussion, hockey. They've all got issues. NFL in America, NFL, massive. So I've been working with a specialist, a medical specialist, to create the content. So that'll be something we'll do. And again, coming back to the point, that means the access point into this product, which typically would be 500, probably 1,000 units from an economic order quantity point of view. And we don't get me wrong, we've done an order of 50 in the same way we've done an order of 5 million. But in reality, with all the setup costs for the print and the finishing and everything else, sort of 1,000-ish would be economically, because if you took my business card, come leaflet, mini brochure, whatever you want to call it, like that, if you said to me, Ian, I really like that idea, I can sell my services, I'll wait for the order later, by the way, I can sell my service on this, hand it out, and people will keep it. I want 1,000, please. How much will it be? I'd say, Chris, that'll be £995, please. No VAT. And you'd say, oh, fantastic, what a good idea. If I want 2,000, how much is it? The answer is 1,036 quid. So it's roughly half the price, because all the setup costs are there. If you want 10,000, it's less than 1,500 quid. Now it's irrelevant if you don't want 10,000. But the point is, if you can, so going back to the rugby one, if you've got that content, which is really IRB guidelines, but made applicable, and we have to have somebody, a bit like the education things, we have to work with specialists who can make sure they validate the content. It would be utterly wrong and ridiculous for us for concussion guidance and injury management. Like I said to you earlier, I'm a chartered accountant originally. What do I, apart from I used to play rugby, what do I know about the experience of the injuries? So, but in reality, you work with the right people who can make sure the content's right. And all of a sudden, inner content remains generic, covers get personalized to an individual rugby club, let's say, and then they're given to, or sold, who knows, by the club, to the parents, to the participants. But the access point isn't 1,000 units, it might be 200 units or 100 units, because they're paying per unit. So all those sort of things where the content is really relevant, we're working on, other things. Tax cards, you'll have seen them, as I've seen them over the years, your 6 or 8 page fold out card that the firms used to. Some don't do them anymore because they're online, but a lot of firms still use them as a marketing piece as well, because they want the name on it. So we've developed a tax card in a Z card format. Brilliant. Great idea, because actually, they can put their own name on the cover, and it's only a 4x3, so it's that size. So you've got all your content on there. And again, the firms can buy the generic content and put their own stuff on the covers. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm boring you now, but lots of things.
It really is incredible. What's brilliant is the whole practice, is the passion that you have.
I never get sick of the business because it's so varied.
It's great, but I mean, it really is great. It's just that whole passion that you say comes through, which leads to create the creativity.
Yeah, it does, and bear in mind that all these things apply to all our businesses. So America, which is a major growth opportunity for us, because believe it or not, even though we're manufacturing our main plants in the UK, we've got a backup in Poland, which we have for Brexit related. Happy days. Cup of coffee, please. But we're shipping predominantly air freight. Well, apart from, we've done a massive job for Bermuda Tourism once, which we ship some by sea, but generally speaking, air freight, either as boxes or as pallets to the US, and we're 30 to 40% cheaper than our US-based competition.
Oh, wow.
because they haven't really had any competition there. So all of a sudden we can go there. Now the challenge for us there is, and this is coming back to what we've learned, not so much during the pandemic, but over the last couple of years, because there've been so many produced, it'd be natural to think everybody knows what they are. They've been skiing or I've done this or that. So all we need to do is throw some money at Google for pay-per-click, make sure we optimize the website, do all those things, and then we'll just pluck all that fruit from those low-hanging branches and make hay while the sun shines. It didn't work like that because they're a good business, our competitors over there, but they've had it to themselves. So it's tiny by comparison, in my opinion, to what it could be. And bear in mind, we've supplied all of Europe over all these years. So I can work out what the penetration per head of population is throughout the different European countries. And if you take that, just a boring stat, but that's around about 100 cars on average per 1,000 head of population. Right. Some more, some less, but that's roughly what it is. And there's no reason to think that if you took that population of Europe and the profile of Europe, could that and should that apply to America? Yeah, it probably should, really, because actually, if you think about the mix of countries and cultures and everything else in Europe, then it's not going to be much different. On that basis, 325 million population, the market there should be 32.5 million units per year for cars.
Yes.
Simple. It's nothing particularly scientific to do it. And then I know what our average unit selling price is, and I can extrapolate that and say that's what it should be. We're never going to have all the market. Take a proportion of it. What should it be? And it's a big number. So on that basis, we kind of been trying to develop those other markets. But what we know here, I mentioned about the concussion for the NFL. Again, it should apply. Education. People, the examination bodies will be different. It's the same principles. Yep. There are some differences. I mean, we do a lot of charity work here, and there doesn't seem to be quite as much that we've come across there. Education is a big sector there, huge. There's 2,000 universities. The thing about America, if you haven't ever dealt with it, is the scale. It's just astronomical. The city, we do a lot of, as I mentioned earlier, trail maps, things like that. Cities, counties, towns. I mean, it's more administratively driven in terms of, we did an affinity card for the city of Mont Belvieu in Texas. It's 9,000 population. It's not a city. It's a city to them because it's how the administration is. And that was for the launch of internet services for them. But there's so many of them, and it literally can be overwhelming in terms of the scale of it. But we can take what we learn here. In Germany, we have a separate business with German staff there and everything else, and we bought that business and then have developed it since. Yeah. So that's good because I don't speak German. But again, but the same principles. And there are differences. Education over there isn't the same here. There isn't the money in it as there is here, so because of the way it's funded and how it works. So a lot of the things that we're doing here, education, I just said to them, come on, get out there and do that. And they're like, we can't. It doesn't work that way. But other things work differently. So we do a lot of work with Deutsche Bahn on the transport side and stuff like that. And it's different. France still again differently. So there'll all be different things, which is a challenge. But it's also really interesting to understand, which key opens which door and then how to do it. And so, it's good. Anyway.
It's funny, we did some work in the States with a previous business, and what came across is the comfort with working remotely, because it is such a big country as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Population, it's such a big, the idea that you do things face to face is just not sensible from their perspective.
Absolutely.
It's
also different. I mean, we spent a lot of time at different exhibitions and shows in America last year when we could, and that ranged from Cities and Counties Marketing Association show in Denver, right the way through to this B2B marketing exhibition in LA and others in between. And the nice thing is, there's a less awareness. So actually, it's genuinely people going, wow, where do you get these? And we're like, where have you been? But, fantastic. Infinity Card's different because they're not as well known. But also people are so willing to talk to you. You'll have been to them. I've certainly done plenty in the UK. And sometimes you have to say, come and talk to me. And even that's a challenge. Whereas there's no danger over there. The people will they love it. And it's such a refreshing economy to work in that sense. Yes. It has its challenges, of course, and you're 100% right. Our business is based in Florida. Yeah. But of course, we work all through the US, and you simply can't unless you have to. You can't travel. You can't travel. We'll travel to do the exhibitions, and we do a lot of parks and rec. So we do the parks and rec conferences, be it state-wise or nationally, and that sort of thing. And you have to, you've got thousands of people going. It's worth doing, but you couldn't make sense of it unless you're selling something at unbelievable prices and margins. You're not going to go and do that. So you have to work out how to deal with people remotely, and this will have pushed it even further down that line, won't it?
I think I would imagine the states would have been more comfortable with the whole idea because they were working remotely. The idea of using technology would be comfortable to them. I'm sure they weren't being locked out. Well, I guess they weren't locked out that much, but the whole use of technology, I think they will have been way further.
Yeah, and I think as I said to you earlier as well, we're not going back to the 90s in the food business, and our relationship with the supermarkets generally, as well as wholesalers and that sort of thing, right. Frozen food. So there's a lot of that, and you would go and see the clients. I mean, we were in Leeds. Asda was one of our biggest clients. Morrison's were a massive client, so that was easy. But you'd go to London to see Sainsbury's and Tesco and etc. 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 I rarely go and see a client, nor do my colleagues either. Yeah. One of our biggest clients is based in Leeds. And I think we've been to their office twice.
Oh, brilliant!
Yeah, I mean they work nationally, but that's by the by. But it just it's a different world anyway. So coming back to what I said to you earlier, the pandemic hasn't really affected us in that sense because we weren't relying on that face-to-face contact. Yes, it has for exhibitions and trade shows, but it hasn't for seeing clients. Speaking to them when they're not at home, not in the office, they're at home or whatever, is sometimes more challenging, but it hasn't affected us in that sense. Anyway, sorry, that was again a very long-winded answer to your question.
It's absolutely great. So what's the future look like for you?
Yes, crystal ball. I don't think it looks vastly different, to be honest, to what it did pre-pandemic. It's just perhaps the timescales have lengthened a bit. We'd always thought that there was opportunity to grow the business organically in certain areas. We want to keep expanding internationally, and we want to use that Trojan horse type thing I was talking about, where actually we can sensibly, not for the sake of doing it, but sensibly add other elements to our business on where, we've got clients who genuinely, depending on what the project is, what they're working on, we're interested anyway, so we always like to understand what they're doing, because we've produced so many of them, and we know that the different permutations, the different options, the different materials, different finishes. So we can really give some genuinely good advice in terms of what options might be, and we'll always try and make sure the clients get best value, because that's how they keep coming back. Yeah. But some of those things will be, we've got this campaign, or we've got this product launch, or whatever it happens to be. And by then using that, saying, have you thought about doing this? What about that? We will be able to widen the business out. And and with that will come opportunities, because of the awareness thing. No matter how many we produce, there's still so much to go at, and particularly, like say, in America, one of the challenges there is to just make people aware, and it's difficult, As I said earlier, it doesn't matter how much money we throw at Google. If the search volumes aren't there, people aren't searching. So you have to find other ways. And we've done some nice jobs for Bombay Sapphire Gin, Bacardi, BMW through a particular client in the US. One of their clients is a brand of cognac that a very, 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 very well-known musician has an awful lot of money invested in. Right. Now, that sort of thing, it's highly unlikely that this would happen. But for example, I was keen to talk about we could use it for these other things, because I know that if on social media that got picked up, and God knows how many billion followers these people have, then talk about it. That's how you raise awareness. So, we've got to be smart enough to say, okay, what can we sensibly add on? There's no point in being a jack of all trades, because we'll end up making a mess of things. We've got to try and strategically bolt on different things. So, ideal world, there is the potential, and I can't give any details because I can't, but there is a potential for us to acquire some other businesses in different parts of the world and amalgamate them together. If we can do that, that will take a bit of doing, but it will be a significant jump, and it's along the same lines of what we do. So we're not reinventing something silly, but that will give us the critical mass to then start to be a more broadly based marketing services business, let's call it that, where actually we genuinely have the ability to say, you're doing that, you're doing a product launch. Okay, well, if you speak to the guys here, you can do that. So ideally, if you're asking me ideally what we could do, we get that done. We then use that as to make it bigger. But I just think what we've got to do is just keep doing what we do, making sure we use the our website, our own digital marketing. We obviously have our own marketing manager and whatever, and we're trying to internalize some of that external stuff we do at the moment, and actually just raise awareness of the product. And you'll have seen, obviously you have seen the website. You'll see what we're doing on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and it works, and we're getting reach that you couldn't have imagined that we get. Again, because we're not just a UK business, by doing that. So we've just got to make sure that monetizes properly, because we don't want to, as much as I think some of these ideas about using the guides and the content are a really good idea. I mean, sadly, mental health, we've done so much in mental health. We've done that. We've got some mental health guys, because actually we've done so many different products, be it Infinity card or a Z Fold card related to it, and a lot of it's NHS guidance. You can do that, and we've now got education sector clients, and there'll be others as well, taking that generic content and putting their covers on it, because they're responsible, handing it out to the students, to the teachers, not because they can't get that information elsewhere, but because actually having it in that format, demonstrably handed out, God forbid there should be any due diligence requirements to show that people have actually done things that they should do. And that comes back to the concussion thing, because that we've seen what happens in America with the legalities of that, and I think that's why the potential there is not just that it's a best practice thing to do, that the rugby club should hand these things out to the to the participants, to the parents, etc., because it has got what to do if really, really important. But also, God forbid that 5-10 years down the line, there shouldn't, the thing hasn't been controlled, and there's legal action. The ability to demonstrate what you've done to inform and educate and everything else could be very, very important. So it's a good thing to do. It's the right thing to do, and practically, it's also a sensible thing to do. So there's lots of things like that. And these
about mergers and acquisitions. We work with several clients where the reality is, and unfortunate for some people, but lots of businesses are up for sale. And if the businesses aren't, in terms of that they're open to purchase, their clients may be, because if they've chosen to go down and not market themselves, one of the things we're finding is the marketing pound or dollar or whatever it is worth way more right now, because a lot of our competitors aren't marketing. So being, as Warren Buffett talks about, being bold when people are fearful and fearful when people are bold, it's the right time if you've got the right mindset.
No, absolutely. And I think if you go back to, I don't know the exact details, but broadly speaking, and you'll probably know this better than I do, there is a story which I believe to be true, that back into the Great Depression, back into the 20s in America, there was different cereals businesses. Kellogg's kept marketing. They kept spending money on marketing, kept pushing the business forward.
Yeah.
That story. There was others who probably at the time were as big, if not bigger, who didn't. Where are we now?
100%. No, totally. It's about realising that this challenge is also an opportunity. And if you accept that, then it's about how do we make it an opportunity.
You're right, though. The pound or your dollar or your Deutschmark or euro or whatever it is. Deutschmark, I'm sure my age now, aren't I? Euro goes a lot further now than it used to. It's just about being smart with it, and there's no point in just scattergun approach. You've got to be strategic about it. You've got to do it properly.
But it's understanding that it has massive value. The
absolutely.
Do it right now for marketing is incredible. As a role with both businesses in terms of acquisition, but also their clients. If they're not servicing them because of a lot of people stop marketing, their clients think it's not business.
They've gone.
That's amazing. So looking back over this period and how you went through it, what have you learned about yourself?
I'm probably more resilient than I thought I was, to be fair, and optimistic. You're probably best asking other people what they've learned about me as well. But no, I think I'm fortunate that I've had a lot of experience over the years, too many years, unfortunately, in terms of different businesses, growing businesses, selling businesses, buying businesses, and having problems in businesses as well. We've had all sorts of issues that I like to think out of our making, some probably were, but, you've got to be able to manage through those processes as well. So, and you probably don't realize until you're in a situation like we all have been, a lot of us have been over the last few months, that you draw on those experiences to different degrees, and not always in an obvious way either. If you think back to, we had it back in 2012. We had a fabulous business doing what we're doing now, but doing other things as well. We had a contract with someone which was worth £4 or £5 million a year to us, and they broke the contract. And that was half our business, and it went overnight like that. And their gamble was obviously that it would finish us, and the fact that we're still talking about the products we do today tell you that it didn't. But what it meant is that's when we had to launch Alpha Card. That's when we had to come up with doing that. And at the time, it was awful. We had a lovely business making good money, and we had the things to show from it in terms of cars and all that sort of stuff, and everything else. And literally, I'd just bought a brand new car, a lovely car, 6 weeks before when we were trying to buy this business, bizarrely, and they told us they were going to sell it to us, and then we went to the completion, or the heads of agreement, and they said, "Oh, we need another £1 million," and we're like, "Pub." And as a result, that's what happened. So yeah, there's a lot more to it than that. But in reality, if you use the old hot air balloon analogy, as it's hurtling towards the ground, you're throwing things overboard to try and stop that process, and then you start going up again. And that's an extreme example, but that is a crisis, and you've got to manage through that, and you live on your wits. So I'd say I've learned that there are things that you didn't know you knew that you knew, and it's also instinct, and has everything that we've done in the last 9 months been 100% right, and we wouldn't change anything? No, of course not. But who could say that about life anyway? But I think I've learned that there's some resilience there. I've also learned a lot about the business and the it's Charlie ringing me. So I've learned a lot about about the business, the people I work with. That's brilliant as well, because everybody has come together as a team and realised that it's tough times. You've got to get through it and think outside the box and do what you need to do. So I think in that sense it's been good. It's been character building.
Brilliant. Well, look, thank you so much for your time. I could talk for hours.
I can as well, sadly.
It's really exciting. It's just really exciting to see businesses that are, yes, we've got to take what happens on the chin, but A, we're not going to let it affect us. B, we're just going to plan for the future. And I'm no doubt, we're going to see you go from strength to strength.
Well, I hope so. We'll certainly be trying. That's for sure.
Well, that's it. That's he's going back to you saying about making decisions. It's something that hit me a lot, quite a while ago. Was I've got to do whatever I can to make the best decision, but I can't always know, and that's the point of the decision. I know the right one, but by our actions, then make it the right one as much as possible, and that's the best we can do.
Absolutely.
But our founder, Brad Sugars, who's a pretty cool guy, he's made a lot of money in different businesses. He told me a long time ago that he's a successful engineer because he's made more mistakes than he knows.
Yeah.
Not less, but he's had the comfort with doing things which might not work, because if you do enough things will work.
Exactly.
That's if we don't have that attitude, it is going to challenge us. In challenging times, it makes it even more difficult.
And you have to do things differently and try different things, because if you do what you've always done, you'll get what you've always got, won't you? It's a sad fact. So
even to a point, a friend of mine upgraded that a few years ago and said, if you always do what you've always done, your history. And
yes, absolutely. I might use that actually.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, Woolworths, MFI going back a while. And
more recently as well.
Unfortunately, more recently is they've not really changed. They've been known as something that has over time had less value. So unfortunately, probably a victim of choosing not to change rather than embracing change and reinventing.
Correct.
It's innovation. So thank you so much.
Pleasure. Thanks for your time.
And we wish you absolutely the best for everything you do in the future.
Well, thank you very much. It's very kind of you. All right, and have a good Christmas and New Year in whatever form it takes.
Well, hopefully get one of your cards come through the post. That'd be quite nice.
Well, you never know. That'd be nice. All right.
Thanks for watching. What was your takeaway from today's interview? Please post it in the comments below and subscribe for all our upcoming videos or click for the next video here.